Hi, creative friends. This is Soraya, and thank you so much for being here. So, today I am going to talk about singing over the bones. This is the introduction to Women Who Run with the Wolves. Now, let me just say that it is a gorgeous rainy day outside. So, it is the perfect day for us meeting over the fireside, virtually, of course, and having a cup of tea and a chat. So, you might be wondering, what on earth does all of this have to do with art and with creativity? And, 20 years ago, I would have maybe thought the same thing. But the older I get, the more healing I can do on myself, even every tiny little bit. I realize that my creative path is the same as my healing journey. There is no difference. It's really been a huge realization, but I think in the past few years, I have realized that the more in alignment with all of me, with my mind, with my heart, with my body, with my soul, with my intentions, with my creativity, um, the more in alignment all of those are, the more I can create work, my work, from a space of authenticity and passion. I don't have to give up one to do the other. And when I'm not in alignment with who I am, when I'm unhealed, when I have not acknowledged my shadow, we're talking about archetypes, the collective unconscious, unhealed wounds. When I'm operating from that space, I cannot do my creative work in a way that is that serves anybody. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve if I'm going to put my work out there on social media or sell my work or whatever. It doesn't serve anybody, is my point. So for me, healing and seeking and learning and growing, that is all, it's not separate from my creative life. It is bound together um, in a way that with each step I go forward in my life, I realize more and more. So let's get back to Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes. So basically, in before even the first chapter, she talks about singing over the bones. And what does that mean? What does wild woman mean? What does the wild woman archetype mean? Well, Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes says that the wild woman archetype is not a an energy that is loud and abrasive and out of control, angry. It could embody that when it's needed, like if a mother, say we're talking about the wild woman archetype, and she relates that to the wolf. So just say if a mom wolf was going to protect her cubs, she would she would do everything possible. She would kill. She would, be very raw and powerful and put all of that into the energy to protect her young and save them. So yes, when it is necessary, the wild woman can become those things. But as a general rule, the wild woman is not what has been portrayed by what Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes calls the overculture. Now, the overculture is society. It's our um, the false beliefs that so many of us have been downloaded with, the patriarchal systems that operate in most parts of the world. They don't operate in every part of the world, in all cultures. That is not true. But in a lot of cultures present day, that is the system that we're all operating under, is patriarchy. And not only patriarchy, but toxic patriarchy, poisonous patriarchy, patriarchy that kills and stifles and imprisons. not only women, although obviously women, but children, and even men. Because if a man has to operate from a patriarchal system that says, well, men are always strong, they never cry, they never show any emotional vulnerability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, they also oppress men. So patriarchy really doesn't work for anybody. It might work for men for a short time, but in the long run, it just is not conducive to wholeness and growth and all the things that we so desperately require as human beings, connection. So Dr. Estes says that the wild woman is somebody who is soft and vulnerable and compassionate and creative, and it's all encompassing. It's not soft to the point of I'm going to let everyone walk all over me, not soft to the point of um I am not going to listen to my own inner guidance. That is not softness, that is weakness. So she lays out a very clear and all encompassing view of what the wild woman archetype is. And that's all in the first, I don't know, 6 or 7 pages. And there's a lot to it. Now, she calls herself a cantadora, which means keeper of the old stories. And like I explained in my first video about her life, she was raised by illiterate parents on both sides. Her Latina Mexican birth parents were probably migrant farm workers. They were illiterate. And then when she was given up for adoption, she was taken in by Eastern European parents of an extended family, and they were illiterate as well. They were Hungarian. So she calls herself the keeper of the old stories. And she talks about stories as medicine. And I totally love that whole definition. She says that stories, I mean, we as human beings have been telling stories forever around the fireplace, around the open fire. This is a part of our um, collective as being human beings. We are storytellers. And she talks about stories as medicine. It is going to heal us telling our story, sharing our story, listening to other people's stories, connecting over stories. Um, it's a balm. It is a soothing, healing balm to be witnessed in this way, to be able to witness other people in all of their humanity, in all of their vulnerability, in their strengths, in the full scope of who they are. So storytelling, when it's told in truth, with compassion and empathy and a sense of wonder, it is soul medicine. And that's exactly what she talks about. And I'm going to read an excerpt here, and I'm going to have to put my glasses on because I'm at the age where I really do need my glasses to read. So I put a little sticky here. Okay. To adjoin the instinctual nature does not mean to come undone, change everything from left to right, from black to white, to move from east to west, to act crazy or out of control. It does not mean to lose one's primary socializations or to become less human. It means quite the opposite. The wild nature has a vast integrity to it. It means to establish territory, to find one's pack, to be in one's body with certainty and pride, regardless of the body's gifts and limitations, to speak and act in one's behalf, to be aware, alert, to draw on the innate feminine powers of intuition and sensing, to come into one's cycles, to find what one belongs to rise with dignity, to retain as much consciousness as possible. The archetype of the wild woman and all that stands behind her is patroness to all painters, writers, sculptors, dancers, thinkers, prayer makers, seekers, finders, for they are all busy with the work of invention, and that is the instinctive nature's main occupation. As in all art, she resides in the guts, not in the head. She can track and run and summon and repel. She can sense camouflage and love deeply. She is intuitive, typical, and normative. She is utterly essential to women's mental and soul health. So basically, what, in my interpretation, what she is talking about is when we lean into our wild nature, we are leaning into our instincts. We are leaning into being whole, into being in integrity, in alignment with all of who we are. So I'm going to give you an example of this that is from my, because that's how I said I was going to do this series, is I was going to talk about her work, and then I was going to tell you how, what, how it has applied to my life. So I'm going to give you an example of this. When I talked about archetypes in my previous video on archetypes, I mentioned how, if you were going to build a house on a swamp, it doesn't matter how much money you could have, a $10 million house built on a swamp, and it does not matter how much money you put into it, how much effort you put into it, how much time, love, dedication. Um, it doesn't matter what you do. The house is built on a swamp. The foundations are faulty. It might hold for a minute, but it is going to crumble and collapse at some point. Now, imagine if you did not know that the house was built on a swamp. You think that the foundation is firm. You think, well, I'm looking all around me and all I see is swampland. So everybody's house is built on a swamp. So to you, it's just like normal. This is not, well, I shouldn't build my house on a swamp. Every house that you see is built on a swamp because you're in swampland. So for me, that's exactly what happened in my life. I was raised in a very toxic, abusive family of origin. It was restrictive, it was poisoning, it was cruel, it was limiting. It was a swamp. And everywhere I looked in my family, in my extended family, in my community, in my culture, I was in swampland. Everybody, um, you know, they might not have had the exact same experiences that I had, but my point is, it was swampland. So now, when you go out into the world, you start building things, not realizing that you are on a foundation that is not firm. You're not in alignment. So I might say, okay, I believe XYZ, but because I'm not in alignment, I don't realize that I'm building things that are on a swampy foundation. Anything that I build is going to collapse. Um, my idea, the belief that I had of what love is, what I was taught love was, what I was told to believe what love was not love. It was abusive. It was cruel. It was toxic. Um, it was patriarchal in its worst sense. Um, so I go out into the world, and all the relationships I have are built on this faulty foundation of what love is. And it cannot hold. It might hold for some time, whether they're friendships or uh, love relationships or whatever. They may hold for a short period of time, but they are not going to hold um, a long term. And when they do hold, it is, I'm not in alignment with my truth. And so my wild woman archetype has gone into hiding. My intuition goes into hiding, because if I'll give you an example. If I'm stuck in a friendship, I shouldn't say stuck in a friendship, but if I have a friendship and I think, oh, well, this is, this seems like a good friendship. I love this person, they love me, they care about me, etc. But my belief systems are about what love is, about what respect and reciprocity and caring about somebody, showing love. All of those things are faulty, because it's all built on a faulty belief system, a swamp, but I don't know that it is. So I might experience something that is not loving in its true sense. So it hurts me. It makes me feel really bad, but I don't speak up about it. I don't articulate myself. I don't express my needs. I don't ask for what I need. I don't set boundaries, set healthy boundaries. So I am not in alignment with who I am. My feelings are hurt. But I sit there and I go, well, I was taught that this is what love is. And because I don't even know that my house was built on a swamp and all these beliefs are so faulty, I don't even think to question it. I just am operating from a faulty belief system. So you can see in this way how the wild woman archetype is going to go into hiding, because your intuition, you've now like squelched your intuition, because you have cognitive dissonance between your head and your heart. You're not in alignment. But the more you heal, the more you look at your shadows, the more I have looked at my unhealed selves, my wounded selves, my past selves, with compassion and without judgment. And even the people who have hurt me, I look at them with compassion and non-judgment as well, which doesn't mean I would want them in my life now. It just means that I have compassion, because I have been that person. I have been that person that has been very hurtful to others and unconscious, and I have lived in that space as well. So it's just about acknowledging the humanity, the humanness of all of us. That is what Wild Woman does. It doesn't mean she puts up with doormat treatment, but what it does mean is that you just take a more non-judgmental approach to things. And when Dr. Estes, when she talks about singing over the bones, what she is talking about is, in my opinion, taking all the bones. We all have bones. And what does the bone represent in a symbolic sense? It represents our very, our beingness, our psyche, our just who we are at our very base level. And when we sing over our bones, what we're doing is we are blessing all the things that we have experienced. We are blessing all the selves that we have been. We are opening up our vision to encompass a broader version of ourselves. And in this way, we can heal ourselves and we can grow. So thank you so much for holding space with me. I hope that this has made sense. I hope that I have not been rambling on too much. I hope that you will leave some comments and some feedback and some questions, because like I asked in the last video, I hope that this series can be collaborative, in the sense of, you ask me questions or leave some feedback, and then I can go on and make videos that are more aligned with, say, not only the experiences I've had, but like maybe things you want to ask me about and things of that nature. So thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.